Sitaram viewers, and welcome to another edition of the Hindu Perspective, a program prepared and presented by the Dharmandal or the Board of Swaha to bring enlightenment, elucidation to the national community about the various tenets of Sanatan Dharma. We have today with us on the panel myself, Pandit Jaidat, as well as Pandit Ishwar, and we'll be handling the program, we'll be taking the program forward as normal. And as we begin, we'll do so in customary fashion, and I'll ask Pandit Ishwar to lead us in opening prayer.
Sitaram, welcome everyone. Today I ask you to bow your heads as we join together in our minds. Om Ganganapati Namaha. Om Yam Brahma Vedanta Vido Vadanti Param Pradhanam Purusham Tathani Vishwogate Karam Ishwaram Vatasmai Namo Vigna Vinashanaya. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Om Ganganapate Namaha. Boliye Shri Gajanan Swami ki jai, Swaha Mata ki jai.
Thank you, Panditji. And as we have been doing in previous weeks, and of course since the inception of the program, that the Swaha Hindu perspective is really about looking at the perspective of Sanatan Dharma, Hinduism, as it relates to issues that affect us in our society and of course issues globally, so that we know that we are aware of many social issues that affect us as a community, as a country, as a region, and of course globally. One that we focused on recently was the global pandemic. And of course, through understanding of scriptural teachings that we are able to know and to understand how we are supposed to deal with those situations. One of the major lessons that came out was Kal, Desh, Avasar, time, place, circumstances. And we saw that where certain adjustments needed to be made so that our rituals could still have been completed in a way that would have still respected the rules of our way of life and at the same time respected the laws of the land. And this is just one example, just to bring back to memory the purpose of the program, so that we are looking at various social issues. And as we look at those social issues, we make references to our scriptures, as well as we draw upon information from the perspective of our organization, from scriptures, as I said, and as well as we have members of the panel who in our own experience as professionals, as individuals, we also share our view. And we always invite you as the viewers to call us to WhatsApp for 470-8103. And you can always give your views, you can give your opinion on what you think and the topics you think is of relevance to discuss on the program. And today, once again, we are going to discuss a topic that is of great relevance. And this is something that has affected our country and is happening again. Now, we are not talking about crime. We have spoken about that on many occasions. And of course, we have spoken about various solutions. And through our school and through different institutions, that is being addressed. Now, if we are aware of what is happening in the country in different parts, we know that there's tremendous flooding. And flooding is a result of many, many factors. Certain places like Guyana, etc., it is because of the country's under sea level. But in Trinidad and Tobago, we are noticing that there are greater incidents of flooding. And that flooding happens very quickly. And we know that one of the factors is because of pollution. And in light of that, what we wanted to discuss today, both Pandit Ishwar and myself, we have agreed that discussing the environment, discussing nature is something of great relevance for us. Because if we understand the value of nature, if we understand the environment, then of course we are hoping that from a philosophical point of view, that we show a greater level of respect to nature and the environment. And in so doing, we'll be able to reverse some of the negative effects that we are seeing from, what we will call disrespect to nature. So that from a Hindu perspective, the environment, nature, there are many references, scriptural references to the value of nature, the importance of nature and the environment in our way of life and the role that the environment and nature plays in our lives. So having said all of that, I want to pass over to Pandit Ishwar, who can give his introductory remarks and, of course, to share any references or whatever he sees is of value so that we can get the discussions going. Panditji?
Thank you, Panajaidat, and Sitaram again to our viewers. So certainly the entire country and the region, in fact, would have been hit with, we may say, rainfall or weather that may be uncharacteristic for the season. It's still supposed to be dry season, but we're experiencing, these torrential downpours and flooding in some cases. And it does ask, we may ask ourselves, what else can we do? How can we help protect the environment? And there are a number of agencies, of course, and institutions that have embarked on various projects, and some which we may speak about. But as Panaji has asked, given all that is taking place, and in general, really, not only because of the flooding that we see, we want to discuss the link between Sanatan Dharma, Hinduism, as we commonly say, and protection of the environment, conservation of the environment. And this is nothing new to a Sanatanist Hindu. It is part of our Sanatan Dharma philosophy. In fact, in many ways, in many respects, man and the environment are expected to, we expected to live in harmony with the environment, which is why you'll notice so much of our rituals, so much of our Hindu traditions involve environment and practices that are deeply rooted in showing that respect and consideration, in fact, for lower forms of creation and the environment in particular. In fact, one of the Panch Mahayagya, 5 daily duties and obligations, is Bhutyagya, which is showing respect and performing, certain acts which may be in harmony with environment and lower forms of creation, the animals, flora and fauna, then basically all around us. So even if we were to look at, various scriptures would describe the way in which individuals lived thousands of years ago, and even up to today, you still have some tribes, and I use the term tribe, and I hope people understand what I'm saying. Not that they are uncultured, but they still live in the environment. Panaji mentioned Guyana. I believe even Guyana still have some tribal groups that live a very, simple life. Some may say primitive, but you know what? Everything that they do is tied to the environment. They live in harmony with the environment. They fiercely protect that environment because they understand that the environment, the plants, the rivers, the sea, everything around them, it helps and nurture them, support them, sustain their life. And so in return, they do whatever they can to protect those valuable resources, natural resources. And throughout our scriptures, there are references from divine forms themselves. Bhagwan Sri Ram, Lakshman, Sri Krishna Bhagwan, Devi herself. Sita Mata came from Prithvi Mata. She's from arising out of Bhumi, Mother Earth. So devotees throughout and viewers throughout our scriptures, references are made of the environment and how important it is. We have even the beginning Balkand of Sri Ram Manas, Mother Earth. Mother Earth, or one of the 5 forms of mother, represented as Prithvi Mata or Dharti Mata, actually assumed the form of another type of mother, one of the 5 forms of mother, of Gau Mata, of a cow. And approaching Vishnu Bhagwan, approaching Brahmaji firstly, then Vishnu Bhagwan, what was the pronouncement made? Bipradhenu Surasantahit Lina Manuja Avatar. That pronouncement, that promise, or that vow was made by the Lord himself that he will come to protect the holy ones, the Brahmanas, the cow, and lower forms of creation. Understand, devotees, how important it is for us to live in harmony with the environment. Thank
you, Panditji. And yes, certainly agree with all of those sentiments. And, we in this program, we'd want to make references to scriptures because the scripture, again, is the source of knowledge. Of course, we discover things upon this earth. And Panditji, I mean, you are someone who's qualified in education, not just experience-wise, but also academically trained. Panditji also has a master's in education, along with myself, and we would have learned the same, very similar content. And we know that there there are three sources of knowledge. There's otherworld knowledge, Panaji, knowledge that we learn from scriptures that was handed down to us, um, what we call Shruti, that which was heard. And then there's earth-centered knowledge. Those are the sciences. And Pandit, I know that you would have done natural sciences. So that physics, chemistry, biology, etc. Those are the truths that we discover upon this earth. And then there's what you call man-centered knowledge, phenomenology, that which we discover through our own experiences, intuition. And you put all of these together to come to the truth. There isn't one source alone. But in the world in which you live, the definition that is given. So Pandit is part of an education institute, and they would adhere to a curriculum. And the definition of those curriculum will focus on environment and nature, probably as part of the solar system and that which you can see and perceive. Because the nature of man is, whatever is evidence-based, and evidence-based is based really upon our perception. What I can see, what I can, conceptualize, that is all I know. And that may be earth-centered knowledge, what science may take us to. But in terms of the scope and definition of what you would call nature and environment, scriptures, which is the otherworld knowledge, will speak about multiple universes, will speak about different moons and suns and cosmos and all of that. So Panditji, in terms of expanding our thinking and taking into consideration what our scriptures will teach us, I know within the secular curriculum, we'll just define nature as the earth and maybe other places, the moon and all of that man may have visited. But in terms of Hinduism, how far and how large do we define nature and the environment in terms of that scope?
Yeah, so Panaji, the thing is, we have heard throughout our scriptures, there are multiple references from, I mentioned Ramcharitmanas, Bhagavad Mahapuran. There's a beautiful katha where Yashoda Maya would have grabbed hold of Sri Krishna Bhagwan, and this is the Dasam Skand, the 10th book of Bhagavad Mahapuran, where wanting to scold him after he was told Balaramji and the other friends said that he had eaten dirt, and she pulled open his, grabbed onto him, and he opened his mouth, and devotees, what did she see? Similar to what Kaushalya Mata see when she looked into the mouth or gazed into the open mouth of Prabhu Shri Ram, baby Shri Ram, all the various planets, sun, moon, stars, countless universes, everything you could see in full, high definition as it was. She saw all of that. And not just in those two scriptures, but we have heard about, our saints and sages, our great rishis and munis being able to do travel from planet to planet, Narad Muni, astral travel, we may say. So it is there in our scriptures. Isha Vasyam Vidam Sarvam. Isha Vasyam. Divinity is omnipresent, taking infinite forms all over, not just upon earth. So you have heard about Ganga Mata coming from heavenly regions onto earth. But I want to dwell with something that we have often heard of. And this, in a way, kind of links it for me, where whether it is the moon, whether it's Jupiter, Saturn, and in fact, they are part of our own culture. Saturn, Jupiter, these planets, many of them represented as part of the our Navagraha system that we use. Surya Devata, the sun. And then there are 6 other planets, and then the 2, Rahu and Ketu, are nodes of the moon. So even in our practices here, we recognize that part of our environment, part of our universe that was known to the ancients would have included these planets. And they knew existing was so much more even on the outside. But they are the Panch Mahabhut. So there's the Panch Mahayagya that I would have briefly mentioned, the 5 daily duties and obligations. I said one is Bhut Yagya, there's Dev Yagya, Pitri Yagya, Manusha Yagya, etc. I won't go into that. But what are the Panch Mahabhut? So there's Akash Tattva, Vayu Tattva, Agin Tattva, Jal Tattva, and Prithvi Tattva. So these 5 tattvas then. So at the end of life, we say, Pancha Tattva Shanti. May these 5 tattvas or these 5 elements be purified, because this is what you want, moksha, liberation, for these 5 elements to be purified. The first one, Akash, is space, or some ether then, space. From space, arises Vayu. Vayu Tattva. What is Vayu? Air. So from space, we get air. From air, remember, even in the early days, caveman days, we may say they took two sticks together, rubbing it together, and fire again was created. So from Akash comes Vayu. From Vayu or the air comes again Tattva, fire. From fire, and you may wonder how, but this is natural progression. From fire, remember heat, melting things, and the fact gases themselves from a gaseous state exist in a liquid state. From fire, next one, water, Jal Tattva. And then from water arises earth. So this is just the progression of these 5 elements. And for me, Hinduism recognizes these 5 elements found in the universe upon earth on various planets. And if you were to think about it, they are searching and looking for life forms in various places. And as long as there's water, or there's a belief that water can exist there, there's a belief that life form can exist on that planet. But that's a discussion for another matter, right? But the point is, these Panch Tattvas, these 5 elements then that are represented in nature are also, they comprise the body. Predominantly water, but the other elements are there also. So our very being then is made up of these same elements of nature that are part of the environment all around us, not just here on Earth, but in other planets too. And where I'm not just pulling these things out of the air, it's from my limited understanding and from our knowledge of what Bhagwan Krishna says is omnipresent. Divinity takes all different forms. He exists in all aspects of creation, and not just here, multiple universes, various planets, solar system. So understand, when we talk about the environment, yes, we are zoning into Earth here, or little Earth, and for today, Trinidad and Tobago, or Trinidad, and our little community. But as a Hindu, we have to think macrocosm, right? Everything around us, the entire universe. Panditji?
Yes, Pandit, and I think that those are some very, very profound statements, and the way that you have linked it, I think our viewers will certainly be able to understand. And you brought up the issue of, these divine forces. You spoke of the Navagraha Devata. And, when you perform Navagraha Devata puja, it is not magic. It is really energies. And we know that energies surround us. All right. When you talk about Kali Mata, Shakti, even blessings, what you call blessings, it's just a term that we use for energy that is created. And we know that, the entire world is based on energy waves and frequency, etc. And when you perform the right action, so when you say that when you perform in puja, it is not only physically fasting or abstinence, but the mind has to be in the right places, because the right place, because the mind is what creates that energy, that positive energy. When mantras are recited, when you have the presence for energy, of course, when you do puja, we have those 5 Panch Mahabhut that you spoke about. We have ether, we have water, Jal, Agni, we have Prithvi. All of those 5 elements are present within the puja. It must something, as we say, when you perform arti, and again, this is just my interpretation, that when you perform arti, we say it is a representation of the Jivatma, worshiping that Paramatma, Jivatma belonging to be with Paramatma, that merchant. And if we look at the thali, long time we would say, why do you put some water? Is because the diya will get hot. That's not really the reason. In my view, I mean, if you look at the composition, I mean, air is all around us, ether is all around us. You have ether, you have air, then you have the diya, which is made out of dirt, then you have the fire, you have all of the elements there. And those 5 elements really represents the individual, because we are made up of those 5 elements. And by offering that arati and using those 5 elements, it symbolizes that offering of ourselves, Jivatma towards Paramatma. So from a certain perspective, and a lot of it is perspective, how we interpret. Of course, we understand all of those things. So that even in puja, we recognize these 5 elements. So when we perform, for example, Navagraha Devata puja, what are we doing? We are fasting, as I mentioned, we are creating positive energies, and we say Navagraha Devata Graha Shanti. We are asking for Shanti, for peace from all of the divine, the different energies and the different forces that each of these planets they would emit upon the Earth. And one simple example is that, the moon and the gravitational pull of the gravitational pull is affected by the moon, obviously. And we know this to be true. When it's full moon, we see that, the gravitational pull is stronger. That is why you have higher waves and all of that. And that is just one example. So that each of the different planets, they have a certain effect upon the Earth, an effect upon all of us. So that is why, when we are born upon this Earth, every single one of us, we have different fortunes. We have different, it's not random. It is because we are born under different constellation. And of course, we are born, the different energies will affect us at different times in life. So sometimes when it is negative, we call that a graha. That is what it really is. And then, of course, there are certain remedial measures that we take, guided our pundits and our gurus, etc., that would help alleviate these things. So that, preventing ourselves from facing this is not a reality. We can't prevent it, but what we can do is put the measures in place to try to mitigate the negative effects of these things. But the effect of nature, the environment upon every single one of us, even something as simple as aging, walking in the sun, the way that affect our skin and all of that, differences that we see in diversity, Pandit Ishran may be lighter skin than me. Some of those things has to do with nature. And the fact that we come from different parts of the world, etc., genetics, nature, the environment, so that everything that exists in that entire environment, as Panditji mentioned, macrocosm. It is so large. We are the microcosm, we are the individual. We sit at the epicenter, and everything around us has an effect on us. And that effect can be positive or negative. Panditji, there's also the reference in scripture, the Katha, I believe it is Balkan also, where Sri Ram would have gotten broken that bow, and Parshram would have came there and became angry. And when Sri Ram was about to break that bow, the force of that would have been so tremendous, it would have probably destroyed the earth. And they said that Lakshman would have placed his foot upon the ground, the whole, all of the different forces stable. Now, of course, these forces were, given different names, different animals, etc. But it's an example of, personification. They were really given those identity for understanding purposes, but they were different energies that hold that world together. And as we know, there are different energies that hold this world together. So that hold the solar system in place. Without these energies, then what is going to happen? We know that, it will be chaos and mayhem. So obviously, in order to maintain this level of, stability that we have, there is a role that we have to play. And Panditji, I wanted us to move into that part of the discussion. We agree that there are forces, and we do agree that the things that man can do can either, take those forces in a positive direction, just as in our own lives. If I am experiencing a graha, I fast, I perform puja, I can negate that negative energy and that force that is placed upon me, so that it is within the realm of control of man to dictate and determine what, to a certain extent, what, happens with nature and energy and forces and all of those things. We can decide that by the action that we perform. And what we have seen is that through the actions of man, in terms of, maybe in this indiscretion that may build, in a way that may place a pavement, build our homes, clog up the drains, decide that we are going to do our own work on the road, pollution, use of plastic, all of those things, that it is having an effect upon the earth. And this is manifested through floods, through polluted air, through diseases, through sickness, and all of those things. So Panditji, I'm sharing my view with you, and I'd like you to share your view also, in the sense that, yes, nature in its pure sense would prevail, without any interference, but the reality is that the actions that we perform can influence the flow of nature in a positive and negative way. So Pandit, what is your view?
No, definitely. I agree with you, Pandit, and I want our viewers to think about this, but just ponder this point. Whether or not our actions, let's say environmental actions, then, does it affect our karma in any way? Does it affect, in the same way that you will think doing something bad, cursing someone, harming someone, brings negative karma that could bring about your downfall, something you have to pay for. But what about someone who engages in random acts of indiscretion, whether it's as simple as dumping all your rubbish the side a drain and clogging up the drain that may lead to flooding in the community later on. Yeah, others may come and deal with it. You yourself may be affected, but does that have a lasting effect on you in terms of your karma? And I will say yes, that we all have a responsibility to protect the environment. And I want to go back to Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad Mahapuran also. Sri Krishna Bhagwan again. And Krishna Bhagwan, and in a way, we are reminded. So Krishna Bhagwan speaks to Arjun, and there's a lot of science found within Bhagavad Gita itself and throughout our scriptures. A lot of the things that one may think is just tradition and hearsay and foolish rituals that some people engage in. And we may want to ridicule it and wonder, well, why is that even important? There is wonderful symbolism behind everything, and there's a reason for it. And think what we do for every Bhagavad Yagya. We do it the day after Diwali too, Govardhan Puja. Govardhan Puja. In that Govardhan Katha, Pandit Jaidat will know, we remember, we both would have read this and you would have heard it of yours many times. That Govardhan Katha, when Lord Krishna started questioning why are they all preparing to go to Indra Devata, as though he is some Mahadevata that they're all terrified of, that if you don't offer to him, it will be calamity upon earth, right? Now we know rainfall did come, there was flooding and so on. Krishna Bhagwan protected them by lifting up Govardhan, Mount Govardhan, Govardhan Parvat. But in that katha, there's a description almost of the water cycle, of why it is important to nurture the environment. Krishna Bhagwan, Krishna speaking to his own father, Nanda Baba, and the other elders listening also understood the tremendous intelligence of this child, divine in nature, and what he was explaining to them, that instead of serving that form, who others may say is a demigod, right, a devata, not avatar like Krishna Bhagwan or Prabhu Sri Ram, he said instead, let us nurture, let us show respect and our consideration and our adoration for the mountain, Govardhan Parvat. And description is given of how the water vapor rises and there's cycling of within nature, and then the rain comes. And of course, the hill is responsible for all of that. So if you go down and analyze some of the verses there, it alludes to that simple water cycle that children learn in school up to today, and you understand the importance of the hills for that, right? You see the clouds at the top of the hill, and then of course with the rain falling, you have the lush greenery on the hill, which so many things, not just the animals will benefit, wonderful habitats, numerous or countless habitats could exist on those hills that we can benefit from, whether it's for the purpose of tourism, ecotourism, bird watching, going and just enjoying a stroll, walking through that beautiful serene environment. We may get derived, so many other things from it, medicinal herbs that could be used in Ayurvedic medicine, herbal medicine to help cure diseases and help improve our quality of life. All these things, and of course, food that sustains and supports life. And of course, the water flowing down. Water is life. All of this, the environment all around. And we could see just from that one katha alone, talking about Govardhan Parvat and the importance of showing our respect for Mount Govardhan, Krishna Bhagwan proved and said to all of us, respect the environment, conserve the environment, and in fact, protect the environment, or else calamity will come to you. This is what Lord Krishna says. This is what I believe, and I hope of yours, this is what you believe too.
Yes, definitely, Pandit. And, building on that point, recognizing the value of nature, we live in a world now, and one of the big issues is that of sustainability and, energy sustainability. And of course, fossil fuel, as you know, it is limited. Whether it's here for 100 years or 1,000 years, the point is that there were only so many dinosaurs, right? So that is not renewable. So that the issue of renewable energy and sustainable energy is obviously something that is in discussion. Of course, that's not an overnight solution. But really, when you look at nature, nature provides these things. So nature provides nourishment, nature provides shelter, provides everything that man needs in order to survive and to sustain itself. And from a physiological point of view and a health point of view, we know about Surya Namaskar and the value of praying to that sun, respect for that sun. And even in the Western world, using that sun to heal certain diseases of the skin, etc., the sun is being harvested, and that solar energy is being harvested for medicinal purposes. Of course, those things are being done in certain places. And our scriptures would have made reference to that and the value of the sun. So that performing Surya Namaskar, waking up at a certain time, performing gel. When you perform gel, and of course, we holy brass lotus, we all know that. The brass being a conductor of energy, the water, drawing in that solar energy, of course, the receptacles, the nerve endings in the hands, allowing for that energy to course through that body and will energize us for the day. So that all of that is highly scientific, which adds to the point that Panditji is making. And all of that is given to us by our scripture. And nature provides the bounty that we need in order for us to sustain ourselves, not just in terms of food, but, emotionally, mental health, brightness, illumination, and all of that, because having that brightness, that light of, illumination, making us more aware, making us less lethargic, less lazy in the morning because of that bout of solar energy. That is why we are told to wake up at a certain time. Say our simple mantra, the Surya Devata. All of those things help us. And when we are looking at, renewable and sustainable energy, there's wind and there's solar energy, obviously. And right now we have solar panels, etc. We have windmills, and those things generate energy. And more we are seeing these things are being commercialized for home use. And I'm thinking that maybe not in our lifetime, Panditji, but maybe, when we're in our older years, we will see a greater commercialization of these things and a greater use of it, which is going to decrease environmental degradation as we know it today. And, in light of that, we are referred to as a pagan religion. And when you hear pagan, it sounds bad. But what pagan simply means is those who are nature worshippers. And yes, for me, there's no justification. We worship nature. Why? Because we see the presence of divinity in nature. So that we have Surya Devata, God present in the sun. We have Vayu Devata, God present in the wind. We have Varun Devata, Bhagwan present in the ocean. Again, Devata, Bhagwan present in
Tulsi Mata, yeah.
Tulsi Mata. All of these are different divine personalities. And why is that? If we see Bhagwan in his sun, if I believe God is there, then every single day I will worship that until I am, when my mind is elevated enough, when the great minds of our time will come forward and recognize that, scriptures have asked us to worship the sun, to worship the wind, respect the earth, do not pollute. Why? Because it has to be within reason. And eventually the secret of, the value of all of these different elements of nature or natural elements is going to come forward as the secrets. In the same way that, we now recognize that neem has certain medicinal value. Tulsi, in the past, we just worship the Tulsi tree because that is Lakshmi Mata. And that was fine. At a simpler time, that is all we needed to do. But now we have more advanced. We understand the value of this, not just to worship as divinity, which we will continue to do, but to recognize that there are medicinal value in these things. Now it's been extracted and tea is made from that. That is healthy. Medicines being made out of these things, tablets, etc. So that all of these would have come from what? Recognizing that there's value in nature and preserving nature until as I said, the great minds of our time will be able to come and unlock the secrets of all of these things to help us live a richer and a better life and a better quality of life using what nature has given to us. So Panditji, that again is just a view I'm sharing. I don't know if you have anything else you may want to add.
No, so what I want to say is that everywhere around us, we would notice references, of course. So some of these same forms that we have just mentioned from Tulsi Mata. Look at what our ancestors, last week we were speaking about the legacy left by ancestors. They would have taught us to do certain, simple practices. Remember, as Pandiji mentioned, Surya Devata and the sun, when you wake up and you're, brushing your teeth in the morning. Well, for them, they would have been doing it outdoors. I remember they would have used it that one, right? That
Yeah.
one, they would have
I use that
cut.
in my lifetime
Yeah, me
already.
too. Me too. And I look forward to when I used to go by my Nana's home in
Yeah,
in Brothers Road, right? And you forget to carry your toothbrush, you use your breaker piece,
I
the stick, and
described
you
it.
use your that one, and even up to, in wedding, there's a mantra, dit one, dit one, dit one, that
Yeah,
when you're offering to the dulaha, right? Certain, to cleanse the mouth, as it were. So that one is used, but you're spitting, do not look at the sun and spit. So, you spit out the water and whatever, your toothpaste in another direction. Have that respect. You don't spit towards the sun. Then, you will hear, don't pick Tulsi after 6. It's not that anything happens and you're going to be cursed or condemned, but it's just, we believe Tulsi Mata, Divine Mother. It's not that the tree is sleeping, so to speak, but there are certain, things that are taking place in terms of photosynthesis at that time, respiration. So understanding that there's rejuvenation taking place within the plant. So out of respect, consideration, again, you don't do that. And even Ganga, so when you're placing your feet on the ground in the morning, Jai Prithvi Mata, bow to Mother Earth. These are some practices. Don't just jump off your bed, roll off your bed, and start jumping up and doing whatever you have to do, right? And then even when you bathe and you notice, well, we don't do it when you go into the bathroom, but when you go to the COC, many of our elders still do it, not just for Kartik. You go to a river, you go to the sea, especially for on Kartik Day, but any other occasion, Jai Ganga Mata, you bow to the water, and then they go and enjoy themselves in that same water. But the point is, you are seeing the direct connection. You have that belief, fundamental belief from Sanatan Dharma, but look at how it helps and nurture you. And by, having that belief in our religion, Sanatana is Hindu philosophy, you can see the connection. How, I mentioned about the Panch Mahabhut, everything, all the elements in nature, all around, are also connected because within our own body. So we must, our mind, our body, the energy then within us, and that divine energy pervading everything must be in unison. So I'm agreeing totally with you, Panaji, but I want our people, our listeners, or viewers, or supporters of Swaha and the Hindu perspective. I keep saying many of you, I may not know you, who you are, so reach out to us, connect through sending the messages as you have been doing to Panajaidat and to the Swaha office, so we can keep bringing up relevant issues that may be of interest to individuals. Panaji, I think as we go forward next week, um, and we have a special guest coming on. I don't know if I can mention it once you don't mind, right?
yeah,
It's
sure.
Pandit Dr. Lomas Prasad, who is actually the son of Panagyan Devji, will be coming on. He has a PhD. We'll hear more about that in engineering, but he could probably help us as we explore further, because I think there are various issues in terms of science and the environment that we have only touched. We are just skimming the surface here today, and we could delve a little bit deeper next week. I thank you, Paniji.
Thanks, Pandit. And before we close, of course, just to add to one of the points, the direction we spit. But of course, there's what we call Vastu.
Vastu,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, how we build our homes and all of those things. So one simple practice is never sleep with your feet towards the sun.
yeah,
And that is something we learn from very small, from young. So you don't ever put your foot towards the sun. You sleep either north south or south north. I think your head to the south is the
yeah, yeah,
ideal direction
yeah,
from
and
what
you
I
don't,
learned.
correct, yeah,
Yeah, right? But you ensure that at no time do you sleep with your feet facing the sun. And again, when you learn that, you understand that you respect the sun. So you grow up with that from young. And of course, in terms of urination, defecation, all of that, never face the sun when you're doing those things. So, those are some of the practices and the ideal principles that we learn, when we grow up, so that we understand that yes, Bhagwan is present all over. but we don't need see Bhagwan in the Murtis and all of those things. We have to really evoke and invoke that. But what is the one form of divinity that we see every single day? You know, instantly, and that is the sun. The moment that our eyes are open, we see that sun. And unlike water, we cannot contaminate the sun. We cannot contaminate the wind. Maybe the sun is the purest form of energy, and all of the elements is its purest form because we cannot contaminate that power of that sun. So that is why that sun is held in such reverence, and we pay respect to that sun and Surya Devata. And I know that Hindu perspective is supposed to be on the social issues, but all of these are the social issues because if we can get the mind in the right space and the right understanding, then our attitudes change. And if our attitudes, our philosophy change, our attitudes and behaviors are going to change. We'll show more respect to nature and to the environment. And I mean, Panditji, we always bring up this controversial topic and we can't discuss it now, but in light of understanding the value of nature and the connectivity of everything else, is it that we respect humans alone? Or is it respect human plants alone? Or human plants and animals, which brings up the whole issue of vegetarianism and all of those things, which I know that is a controversial topic, but it's just a reality, and maybe there's something that once you're willing, and other members of the panel, maybe one week we can discuss those things.
Definitely, yeah. I think that's a topic for an entire program, and I think it's something that we should definitely do, especially in light of the fact that so many people we are seeing there's a vegan movement which didn't start out of Hinduism, but actually the concepts would have come from Hinduism in terms of protection of the lower forms of creation, flora and fauna that exist all around. Well, fauna in particular, right? So
Yeah.
I agree that's something that we would definitely need to touch on in a future program.
And then we have Pandit who is well versed in the vegan industry, so that he may be able to shed some light from the Western and scientific point of view. I know there are so many misunderstanding. Person will say, well, Krishna Bhagwan used to drink milk. He was Mark and Shur. But the reason that persons are vegans are not because the reason they choose not to drink milk, it is the way in which the animals are treated. Sri Krishna never abused any animals in the way it is done now. So the idea is not that you avoid dairy because you are taking something from the cow. It is the manner and the cruelty in which the animal is treated that has led to that particular movement. And sometimes, when we speak about these things, those little subtle differences needs to be clarified. So I think that is going to be an interesting topic, and we'll of course reach out to Pandit Chandrarath, who is the secretary of SWAHA, and ask him, if he's willing to come on or recommend someone, and he can come on, bring a guest also, and we can probably have those discussions. So Panditji, thank you very much once again for
No problem.
being here. And I don't know why I don't need to thank you. I mean, you are a permanent fixture in the program, both of us. All right, but it was both of us today alone, and I think that I always enjoy doing these programs with you and having these discussions. So as we come to the end, Pandit, we'll just join with our viewers in a simple closing prayer. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Om Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Om Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bole Shri Satya Sanatan Dharma ki jai, Bole Shri Swaha Mata ki jai. Sitaram.
Itaram.